US Secretary of State Antony Blinken met with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu at the Prime Minister's office. And Antony Blinken took to the microblogging website X and tweeted, and I quote, "Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu and I discussed efforts to secure the release of all the remaining hostages and accelerate delivery of life-saving humanitarian assistance into Gaza." Now, I emphasized the need for Israel to take every possible measure to avoid civilian harm. Now, this is a word coming in from the US State Secretary Antony Blinken, where Antony Blinken was in discussion with the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu for possible measures to avoid civilian harm. Now, let's take a look at what State Secretary of US had to say.
The government of Israel agrees with the imperative of humanitarian assistance and the need to sustain it. Prime Minister Netanyahu also made clear that Israel intends to resume its military operations against Hamas when Hamas stops releasing hostages. As we've said from the outset, Israel has the right to do everything it can to ensure that the slaughter Hamas carried out on October 7th can never be repeated. Hamas cannot remain in control of Gaza. It cannot retain the capacity to repeat that carnage. That was only underscored by this morning's appalling terrorist attack on people waiting at a bus stop in Jerusalem, which killed 3 Israeli civilians and wounded at least 6 others, including 2 American citizens. Hamas has claimed responsibility for that attack. It called its perpetrators heroic.
Well, joining us on the broadcast is our colleague Abhishek. A very good morning, Abhishek. With the reports coming in where US State Secretary has met Israeli Prime Minister, how do you see the two sides addressing the issue of civilian casualties being avoided in Gaza?
Well, we have seen USA has been regularly engaging with not only with the Israeli side but also with the regional leadership. Also, we have seen President Biden talking to UAE counterpart, and then Secretary Blinken himself was in touch with Kuwaiti Foreign Minister just a day ago. So U.S. has been actively involved in the entire crisis, and it had helped, find some space where many hostages from the Israeli side, they have been released by Hamas, and then we have also seen several hundreds of Palestinians also in the presence of Israel having been released. So that kind of gives some hope that the entire hostage crisis that has been going on for more than 1.5 months between Israel and Hamas is on the way of some conclusion, and the truce that is also being regularly extended, that has also helped a lot of humanitarian aid to reach to the people of Gaza who have been struggling to find the basic necessities of life in the last 1.5 months ever since the counteroffensive from the Israeli side had begun, and it had bombed almost the entire north of Gaza, creating one of the largest humanitarian crises in that region.
Thank you so much, Abhishek Jha, for all those details. That was an input coming from the Israel-Hamas war zone, where US State Secretary has met Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu to discuss how can we avoid, casualties in the war zone, and especially in Gaza.